Hey y'all, I am James Wright and welcome to my shop. It's time for another Tuesday Live. If you are new to this, we do a live every Tuesday where we talk about certain things. Today is a Q&A. Sometimes we'll have other guests on, sometimes we'll be making things, sometimes it's a joint, sometimes I just like to talk. So we like to have a little bit of fun around here. If you are also new to this, you will also find a whole bunch of the questions all down in the description down below. So you can actually go down in there and there's a timestamp beside every question so you can read through them and see which ones you want to read. If you are watching this live, then go ahead and throw your questions into the chat, and my lovely wife down here will add those into the questions.
Tonight.
Yes, it is the day I can say lovely, not just short.
One day.
Yes, throw those into the chat, and we will get to as many questions as we can tonight. Also, usually the first few minutes of the live, I actually go through any upcoming events and things like that. So it's kind of the news section for Wood by Wright. Speaking of it, there are actually quite a few events coming up. Number one, March 2nd through the 4th, I'll be at Workbench Con. That is in Atlanta, Georgia. And I might be doing a meetup during that, so stay tuned if you're in the Atlanta area and want to get together for dinner or something. Next up, March 26th is the MWTCA meet right here. That's actually the one I helped co-host, and it's actually just a couple miles away from me. Ooh. And it will be the last time it's actually at this particular venue because they're going to be bulldozing it when we're done. What does that say about us? No, the first national MWTCA meet of the year will be in Green Bay this June 14th through the 17th. So if you're going to be there, fantastic. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you. But if you're not going to be there, well, you should probably look at your calendar and see if you can make it. Because if you're looking to buy hand tools, that's the place to do it. Biggest hand tool sale in the entire world. Then next up, and this is a big one, this is a long ways out, but I want to get it on the calendar now for everyone. September 1st and 2nd. September 1st and 2nd in Amana, Iowa. Where's Amana, Iowa? It is in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. Is Handworks. This is the big hand tool event. It's bigger than MWTCA, and it's huge. It used to happen every 2 years, but due to other problems and then COVID, it hasn't happened for 6 years. So this is huge, and we're really looking forward to it. And everyone is there. If there is a hand tool woodworker, they are there. You're talking about like Roy Underhill, Paul Sellers said he might, we'll see. I will be there, Rex will be there. Shannon said he might be able to make it. So it'll be, yes. So imagine an entire town dedicated to hand tools. So there's a barn where you can buy stuff. Anyone who makes hand tools is there selling things. You have demonstrations. You get to work with the tools. You get to talk to people who work with them. And there's blacksmithing, and it's an entire town for hand tools. But if you're going to be there, make sure you book your hotel now because they will sell out. There's not that many hotels. And there's lots of people coming, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So book your calendar now. That's September 1st to the 2nd. I have links to all of those in the description. So that is the jarring coming up. Oh, one other thing I got to say. I have been wanting to do for a while, start doing classes. I do them when I go other places, but I haven't actually done one here. So I'm going to be toying with the idea of doing an actual online class with multiple cameras, and so people watching it in other places can choose which camera they want to look at, rather than just me forcing the camera for you to look at. And then you can also, through like a Zoom, talk and basically turn into a full class, so there's a full conversation. And I'll have a couple people in the shop. And I'm thinking through a few things for it, but stay tuned. The first 1 or 2 are going to be free. So yeah, as I kind of experiment and play with things.
I have a quick question. Is Blackburn Tools going to be...
I doubt him. He's not old order Amish, but he doesn't travel much. So maybe. Last time, 6 years ago, he had someone else bring his stuff to show and tell. But I don't know if he's going to be there. So stay tuned. But yeah, like Bad Axe is going to be there. Bearcat. I'm hoping flare-up saws will make it. It depends on his cancer treatments. But by that time, he should be through it. Yeah. If they're making tools, they're probably going to be there. All right, what do we got?
Sorry, I'm trying to do two jobs. Name of that event. That's what, Workbench Con?
No, that's hand. Come on, Handworks.
Oh, that's Handworks.
Yeah, there's a link to it in the description.
Sorry, I was half.
And it's completely free. It's an open town, so you can just walk in and do what you want to do. There's no charge to get in. But you won't leave without spending something because there's always things to buy.
Let's see. What did Dad Gamet write? How are you? What did you do on your vacation? Where did you go? Did King James get sunburned?
I didn't. It takes a lot for me to get fully sunburned. And I'll have some slightly sensitive spots for a day, but not that much. But we went to Branson for a couple days, and then we went down, and my parents and my brother and all three of our families went on a cruise together, which was kind of cool to actually all be together for a cruise. And so we were off of the coast of Mexico. Did a little diving, had a little bit of fun. It was a good time. It was nice to just relax, because I don't like to do that very much.
He only gets up early when it's vacation.
What?
Huh?
Yeah, I only wake up early when it's vacation. There's things to do. What's next?
Kenny-Anjanette Horn asked, is there a certain type of tool you are more inclined to buy just because you like them? Saws, bench planes, etc. For me, it seems to be measuring and marking tools.
Not really. There's nothing that I really collect. Other than spill planes. I do have a few interesting spill planes. It's only like 7 or 8, so it's not really a full-blown collection yet, but it probably will be at some point. You know, honestly, the things that really get me going are weird tools. Tools that have a bit of a story behind them. Why were they made? Who made them? And I like being able to talk about that and show the history of the tool. So anytime there's something odd, unusual, or hard to find, those I sometimes want to buy. But most of the time those are as expensive because that means collectible. So that's my life.
Just an FYI, because it came up, your Discord invite link is expired in the description.
Oh, I should redo that one. Because I've been, yeah, it's probably been a long time since I put that one, almost 2 years now.
All right. 2 years of Discord?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's almost 3, actually. No.
Okay.
It was late 2020. Yeah. Almost 3 years now.
Closer to. But anyways, Alex. What did Alex have to say? Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I hit my microphone. Got a few spots of flush rusting after use on my brand new Veritas Low Angle jack. Do I just accept it?
You should never accept anything less than perfection. Let me show you something here. So this is my only Lee Nielsen plane, and I just purchased it a few months ago, and I already have a little bit of surface rust there where my fingers rest. And then you can see the places where the oil has gotten on there. This one, I put this plane into service like a week after I did my normal rust protection walkthrough. And so I haven't done my normal rust protection on this. It just was wiped off and used. So I need to actually go through and clean this up. But for something like that, I might hit it with a little bit of like 400 grit sandpaper, maybe something a little higher, and it'll wipe that right off. And then do my normal rust protection. A little bit of 3-in-1 oil, a little bit of paste wax, and that will keep it going. Do I need to? Yes. Yes, I need to, because it's my precious. Yeah, no, it's one of those things that when you spend a lot of money on a tool and it gets that slight bit of rust on it, it's...
No, I'm just warning them, if you're a little jittery, talkative, it's my fault.
Yeah, she encouraged me to try out my new French press, which she got me for my birthday.
Sorry.
Try it out late at 6 p.m.
Let's see. Dennis Meko. How do you sharpen the nicker on a Stanley 78 rabbit plane?
Those are the long oval ones, right? Actually, I don't have the Stanley. I have that one. If I remember correctly, those are they're long and oval ones. And for most all of the spurs or nickers, you put them flat down on your plate, stick your finger on it, you rub it around, and that's all it takes. If you need to grind the bevel a little bit more, then it's hard. My usual go-to is a small pair of vice grips, and I'll grab it and use those as a way to hold. Actually, let me go ahead and show you. Grab this one. I'm pretty sure that one's... Now this one's the star format. Ooh, cable's falling. Make sure I get the right screwdriver for it. That is not the right screwdriver for it. Does this one work? What am I doing?
Dennis just said 3 lopes. I don't know if that means anything to you.
Yeah, okay, so it's the same as this one.
Okay.
This is the Miller Falls version of the same thing. And on my keychain, I have the Rex Kruger multi-tool. Yes, but it has this driver on there that is perfect for it. What's that?
That's Rex?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a DFM stamp.
Well, it's made by DFM with Rex.
Oh.
Is this one just jammed? Uh-oh. I haven't changed this one in a while. Hey. Oh, no, it just jumped out. Yep. I'm not going to get that one out right now. But yeah, pair of vice grips. I'll put it in there, and I'll often set it down and use the vice grip as a honing guide. And so you can set it at whatever angle it is and just do that on the stone. Yeah, you'll rub up the back of your vice grip a little bit, but oh well. And it actually works out really well to do that. But I'm going to have to mess with this one. And I'm going to have to spend a little time on that one. Set that over here in the fix-it pile. I haven't used the spur on that one in a while, though. Actually, I don't think I've ever used the spur on that one. Maybe I should do it in a moment, so that way it'd be the spur of the moment. What's next?
The sad part is I thought that exact same joke. Oh, all right, let's see. I'm so glad y'all joined us for your Valentine's Day. I hope your significant others are okay with it.
Well, that's why Kenny and Janet do it together.
Yes. It's just so she can know. Let's see. David Walcott. How effective are toothed planes blades?
How effective at what? They're very effective at what they do.
You did not watch our video last week.
Yeah, we did a whole live last week on toothing planes, which is probably why it came up. But they are very effective at roughing up the surface. It depends on how far you have them sticking out. Yeah, they do their job well. If you have a specific task, how effective they are, let me know. But yeah, what's next?
Let's see. Kenny's like, she's doing her nails next to me. I already did mine yesterday, Janet. Let's see. Dr. Khan was lucky enough to find a deal on a toothing plane at TWWS this weekend. Do you know anything on dating continental style planes?
Yeah, there are so many of them and so many makers that it is, there are a few specific makers that have a lot of research done on them, but not many. When it comes to wooden tools, the history is really, really slim, unless you can find someone who's a maker. And so what you can do is take the maker on it, and what I usually do is I go to one of the Facebook groups, particularly Unplugged Woodworkers. That's one I'll go to. There's also a hand plane collecting group. I think it's called Hand Plane Collecting Group. Really creative. But I'll post it on there, and you might get lucky and find that there is a collector of that particular name and has some information on it. But most of the time, it's lost to history. So yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing I didn't put on there. The woodworking shows. I'm not going to be at the one in Milwaukee. Is it this weekend? I think it's this weekend. I'm going to be there Friday morning, though.
Oh, that's right. You're taking the kids.
So might not be able to say hey, but I'll be there Friday morning. What's next?
Oh, shoot. I thought I put the time in for that question. Hang on. Jose Mejia. Is sharpening a marking gauge wheel the same as sharpening a nicker?
Pretty much. Except for with the wheels, you can't do the bevel. Here, let me see if I can get this one off. This one's usually loose enough that I can just run it with my finger.
Oh. Excuse me.
But it doesn't look like it is today, so I'd have to get the wrench out. But yeah, due to the flange on there, you can't do the bevel. So you put them flat down on the stone and you rub them around. But most of the time, they don't actually go dull, they chip out. In which case, then you go buy a new one, which I need to get a new one for this one. It is not looking pretty.
Your list is growing tonight.
Our list?
Your list.
Oh,
of
questions?
Either things to buy or...
Oh. Yes. Yeah. But yes, it is put it flat down on the stone, put your finger on top of it, and run it around. It doesn't take too much to brush it up. And, but they are relatively cheap to just buy a replacement for them. Although that pair have lasted me 5-6 years. It's been a while since I replaced them. Or sharpened them. What's next?
Tom Leurquin. Have you ever made a kumiko panel?
Yes, I've done a few of them actually. Here's a test one I did a while ago. Kumiko.
Wait, how do you say it?
Kumiko.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's some Japanese person who will correct me, but that's the way most people say it is Kumiko. And I've got a video making it. I think I have a video on making this particular panel. But I've only done it in an actual project once. And I've only made kumiko 4 or 5 times. So it's not my big forte, but once you've done it a couple times, it becomes pretty obvious how to do it. The big thing is just making the jig for it. And that's this thing. And I've got a video on making that as well. Making a good jig is 90% of the work of making kumiko. Once you're actually making the kumiko, it's just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Getting a good jig that you can set it up and make the pieces exactly the length you want them to be. That's where the value is. So, yeah. What's next?
Sorry. My bubbler's not kicking in yet. Tom Engel. Can you compare your soft wax to Johnson paste wax? Yeah, I mean, they're very, very similar. Johnson paste wax uses a different thinner. I don't remember what they have. And their wax is, it's not paraffin, it's not beeswax. I don't remember what their wax is. Earwax? No, I'm teasing.
Their oil is a proprietary mixture of different things. So it's a very, very different wax. But it is wax oil thinner. And when it comes to paste wax, is it's not about one is better than the other, because there are so many different types of paste wax and different mixtures and different uses. And oftentimes if I need something specific, I'm going to make up a different batch to match what I want. Different amounts to one to the other, to different types of thinners, to different oils and different waxes. There are millions and millions of variants of paste wax. And so, yeah, each one has its own, ooh, this one's really good over that one in this particular instance, for that particular use, that particular person at this particular time of the day. But yeah, they're both very, very similar. In the actual use and how they come out and the woods I would use them on, Johnson Paste Wax is probably the closest to what my soft wax is in consistency. I think mine is a little bit heavier wax. In other words, I use a little bit more wax on it. But they're pretty close. What's next?
1 second. Just Markus Ahrens. I'm planning to buy a jointer plane. Can I use a number 6?
Yeah, you can use anything you want. A 6 is a bit short for some boards, but works great. My favorite, the one I use most, is usually a 7. The 8 is really big and really heavy, and there's only been one time that I've ever really needed the 8. That was when I was jointing my dining room table. That was only because I had a 2-inch thick slab to work with, and the 8. That's what you want there. But in all honesty, I mean, you can joint with any board. You can with any plane. You can joint with a number 3 if you want. The big difference between a joiner and a short board is a joiner will tell you when you're flat or close to flat, or at least not concave. If you're convex over a long distance, you can actually warp it out with that. But if you're using a smaller plane, you just have to have something else to check with it being straight, such as your eye, or a string, or a straight edge. There's lots of ways to make sure an edge is straight. What's next?
Mahesh Chander asked, how do you properly set up a shoulder plane?
You know, there's going to be some arguments about that. Because a shoulder plane, here, bring this over. 3. This one's my little favorite, little cheapie that I got years ago. I don't even remember who makes this one. Because I believe, if I remember correctly, this one was Miller Falls that they rebranded and the branding sticker came off it. But the basic thing is you have 2 settings. Number 1, how deep are you going to cut? And usually for a shoulder plane doing end grain, I'm not going to make it very deep. I'm only taking off half a hundredth, if that. Maybe up to close to a hundredth of thickness. I don't want to take off much more. I want to sneak up on it. Number 2, how close do you put the iron to the side? And so usually what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it flat on a surface, and I'm going to grab my plane adjustment mallet, and I'm just going to tap the sole here. And what that's going to do is it's going to push that iron perfectly flat to the side. And I will use that as my side I'm going up against. And most of the time that means that now the iron is sticking up past the side on this one, because usually iron is ever so slightly wider than the body itself. But I like to make it right on the edge. If anything, I'll actually have it sticking out just a hair. I'd rather have it sticking out than being inside, because if it's sticking inside, then you're going to be slowly building up a corner surface you're not getting at. But I find if I just put it flat on the bench, like I have it flush right here, this side's sticking out now. So I'll put it flush on the bench again and just go. And now it's flush with this side. And that's all I need to set it up. So that's what I do. Different people are going to want different things and have different ways of doing it, because that's what makes woodworking fun. There is no right or wrong way to do it. So get out in the shop and make a mess. What?
Alex just wrote a haiku with ChatGPT
I
robot.
saw that.
Did you see it?
Oh, he has a haiku. I didn't see the haiku.
Yes.
He had a ChatGPT write a poem, like a ode to wood by right on his birthday, and he put it into the Discord server.
Oh.
And it's actually rather impressive how much information GPT was able to find on me and put into the poem. I'm actually kind of scared, but
Mine's just a haiku. It's Queen Sarah so fair, endures her husband's woodworking, love fills up the space. If that isn't a
that's basically our
perfect
words right there.
encapsulation. Anyways,
What's next?
I don't even know what ChatGPT is, but anyways.
You don't know ChatGPT?
I mean, I've heard of the word, but...
You've been so out of the news.
Saving lives over here, dude. Saving lives. All right, anyways. Hoptman6 wants to know, any good resources online for using an, I always say it wrong, Adze and hewing axe and timber framing in general?
Timber framing, I haven't gotten as much into that as I really want to. I've got quite a few contacts of people who are either professional timber framers or teach timber framing, and I've been really wanting to get out and do a build with them and document it. And there are several good books on it, but I haven't read them that much. I've got 2 in my library, but I can't remember what the names of them are. But yeah, I'm not the best person to ask for that, so I'm sorry. I'm sure you're about to get inundated with comments in the chat of, oh yeah, go check out this, go check out that. If you go to the Ohio area, Central Ohio, there is a lot of timber framing out there, especially with the Amish community and around that. There's some good resources there. Oh, come on, what's the name of that store there? It's just did a video on it last year.
Talk about the one in Ohio?
Yeah.
Homestead
something.
Colonial Homestead?
Colonial Homestead.
Okay.
There we are. Ooh, she's good. Yeah, he has a ton of good information on it, and he has several family members who are professional timber framers, and they teach a class not too far from there. Actually, I think it's like around the corner. So that would be the first place I would go and talk to, is Colonial Homestead. But there are lots of other resources, I'm sure. What's next?
Hey guys, sorry. 5 a.m. calls are catching up to me. DavidG, do you still recommend DiaSharp plates for sharpening?
I have never actually recommended DiaSharp. I use DMT. When I first got into it, the DiaSharp were not good. They were very, very poor quality. But they have gotten much better over the years. And I've been wanting to try some of their more recent plates to experiment and play with them, but I haven't yet. So my gut is now they are golden, because the technology for it has gotten much, much more accessible. And more people can make decent quality diamond plates than used to be. For a long time, I wouldn't touch anything other than DMT because no one else had figured out the system to do it yet. But DiaSharp seems to be getting better at it. No, I'm thinking of a different company, not because DiaSharp is the brand that DMT has for the plates. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of a different brand then. So yeah, DMT plates. There's actually on my website, I have a link to the 3 that I use specifically. Yeah, I've had those 3 for, 8 years now. And still cooking right along. I actually have a friend who's had his for over 15 years now, and still the same 3 original plates. I think Paul Sellers has had his for about 12 years now or so. Something like that. What's next?
John M. All right, hang on. Okay. It's going to take me a second to get through all what he's saying. The what skills that new woodworkers need is clear. How to learn on your own, how often to practice, etc., etc. It may be too big for a question, maybe a topic for future video or series of videos. Does that make sense?
Maybe. What skills should a new woodworker focus on? That might be a good one. I'll have to think about that one. Yeah, usually my biggest piece of advice for a new woodworker is get out in the shop and make a mess. Just don't be afraid of messing up. Messing up is part and parcel. That's that's life. Everyone does it. And the reason you don't see it as much on YouTube is it requires more effort to show the mess ups. It is easier to not put in the work to show the extra. It's not that people are trying to hide something, it just takes more work to do it. And so I try to include that whenever possible, but everyone makes mistakes, everyone has problems, everyone has things they've got to fix. That's just part of woodworking. You got to be willing to go out and make a mistake. And every now and then I will do a dumb project that I have no need for, I have no want for, and I will just do it as quickly as I can and just know that it's going to be a mess. I'm going to be messing it up, I'm going to be making mistakes, and oh well. And sometimes I learn things about myself and how I do things. And I like going into a project knowing I'm going to mess this up, because it kind of frees you to just make a mess and have a fun time. And I really enjoy that. So yeah, don't be afraid to mess up.
There was a disclaimer put on not to make bloody messes.
Yes, mess up safely.
Eduardo Albergaria, that's a new one. I am from Brazil, and the sad reality for me is that there isn't a tradition on woodworking here. So I can't find hand tools so easy as in the USA. Do you have any tips on where to buy online?
Yeah, that is... Yeah, South America is it's hard to find tools down there. And I'm trying to remember, there's a guy who comments on almost every video I put out, and I can't remember his name. I could draw you his logo. It's DM something, if I remember correctly. But he's from Brazil, and he's found a few good resources. I think I have like 3 pins in all of South America on the map. Handtoolfinder.com. But that being said, you can always ship. Most online sellers now will ship to South America, though, yeah, some places it is hard to actually get things. I've sent things to people in South America only to have them returned 6 months later, and then ship them again only to have them returned again, and yeah, it's no fun. So, yeah, I don't have any good resources. Sorry, I wish I could. I really do. But, yeah, that's life.
If our friends in the chat have an answer for
them.
Yeah,
throw them in there. But, yeah, if you send me an email, and I will get you the contact of a couple people I know of down there who might have more information for you. But, yeah, send me an email. I'd be glad to help you out. What's next?
Myron Swenson, do you have a Stanley 51 or 52?
I have a 51. I don't. Oh yeah, I do have. You 52? Is that the number? No, you're a 153. And you're a 151, not a 51. Wait. What was your number? I've never been very good at these Stanley numbers. I don't remember what number that one is. But. Yeah, those are some of my spoke shaves. You can tell which one I use the most. The Stanley 151 is the one I grab more than anything else. These ones are a little bit more dusty. Although this is the first spoke shave I ever got. This is the 153, 53, 53. Yeah, 53. So, yeah, spoke shaves are one of those things you can very quickly go down the rabbit hole. There are so many different types and styles and shapes and ages, and yeah, that's a fun one that a lot of people collect. What's next?
Thad Fleming. Fluted sole planes versus non-fluted. Any preference? If so, why?
Okay, let's back up. History time. Corrugated soles. The Stanley, well, okay, let's back up even farther. Wow, we're digging in here. When steel planes really started first coming out they don't burnish the wood quite as well as a wood does, a hardwood sole. And so some of the steel planes would actually have cutouts in them that the wood would get buried up into. And so you'd have these wooden segments basically pushed into the sole of a metal plane. And that meant that they would last a little bit longer, but it also meant that you had a thicker sole to work with. And there weren't very many of them. And Stanley kind of got the idea that the wooden blocks would stick down just a little bit lower, meaning there'd be less friction. And it kind of thinks that way. And so Stanley started releasing the corrugated planes and would advertise them as they are easier to push. There's less friction because there's less sole surface, which kind of makes sense. But if you actually test it, or if you have any physics background, you'll know that it doesn't save friction having a corrugated sole. It's not easier to push. It is easier to flatten because there's less material you have to take off, but it's not easier to push no matter what Stanley said. So that being said, there are still people who really like them because they think that it's easier to push, and I guess if it's easier in your brain, then it is easier in reality because the body is really weird that way. But mostly corrugated soles are loved by the collectors of corrugated soles. And on average, a corrugated sole will cost more than a smooth sole because of collectability. So, yeah. I don't like to use them that much, though I do have a few. Is it my 5.5? Yeah, my 5.5 is corrugated. For those of you who don't know, corrugation are these ridges in the sole. And it honestly does not make much difference one way or the other, unless you're working with thin stock and it can actually slip into the corrugations, or you're working on the corner of a board. But even there, it's a really, really thin edge case. Edge case. So there isn't a huge downside to them, but there really isn't a huge upside to them. I just prefer smooth just because it's simpler, but 6 of one, half dozen of another. So there.
Okay, so going back to the Stanley 5152, I'm being told that it's actually shooting planes.
Oh, duh! My brain went to the 151. Yes. Yes. Yes, I have my Stanley 51 here. And this is one of my prides and joy. This is probably the most expensive hand plane that I have in the shop. Love this thing. I traded a pile of tools for it. Someday I will get the Stanley 52, which is the shooting board that it actually fits into. I don't know if I'll actually use that because I really like the shooting board I have, but if I do, great. But I do like this. So what was this question about it? Do I have one?
Do you have one?
Yep, I have one. I have a 51. Don't have a 52. I gotta love the Stanley numbering system. I'm horrible at trying to remember them all, but what's next?
Alex Adams wants to know what kind of saw would be good for kids to use to learn, just for cutting scrap wood.
When first getting started, because kids don't have a whole lot of force in their body, and in general, a Japanese saw is a little easier that because you can use both hands very easily. You're actually using your whole body weight into it, and I find the kids find that a little bit easier. It's going to be a little slower for them, but the ease of entry is much, much better. Particularly with the Japanese saw, if you set it up straight, it will follow that track. You can't make it turn out. Whereas with a Western saw, it's got a lot of control in it. But it means if you turn it ever so slightly, with the slightest twist of the wrist, it goes whee! And so you've got to have that skill to actually control it. It's like driving a sports car as opposed to driving Granny's boat. That's an odd analogy. But yeah, Japanese saw is usually a great way to start for kids, and that's what my kids started on, though my daughter is starting to move over into more Western saws. So there's that. What's next?
Hang on.
Yeah, on that note, especially with like a Roba, you have both the cross cut and the rip cut, and so you can kind of teach and show the two different sides and how one grabs and the other doesn't, and then how they cut the wood differently. So it's kind of a good way to teach grain.
Oh, stupid yawn. Hang on. Sorry. Hoptman6 asked, would the 78 rabbit plane work as a shoulder plane?
Yeah, yeah. The only downside is it has a higher angle iron. It's 45 degrees. And so you've got to make it sharp, and you've got to take a lighter pass. If you try to take a heavy pass with it, or if you let it get slightly dull, it's just going to grab that end grain. Because when you're working on the shoulder, you're actually working on end grain. So it's like a shooting board. But just like if you're using a shooting board, you can use it with a standard high angle plane. It's just got to be sharp. It's got to be set up right, and it can do it. Whereas with a low angle plane, yeah, you can let it get a little duller and it'll still do the work. It's kind of its biggest trick is that it does end grain really well. But yeah, you can use it as a shoulder plane because shoulder planes are expensive. Ooh. Yeah, those things are for what you get. What's next?
Joel the Dude wants to know, less technical question and more open-ended. Favorite furniture style? I really like the arts and crafts style.
Yeah, arts and crafts mission, the handyman style. I love that. The slight veer off into green and green, I kind of like that as well. I love Frank Lloyd Wright and a lot of what he does. That geometric era, that's where it's at for me. Yeah, my wife and I both like Frank Lloyd Wright. It's kind of just a fun thing. Actually, I did Frank Lloyd Wright made a theater at Taliesin, just outside of Madison, which is where he lived and worked for decades. And I actually put on a show in that theater once. That was kind of fun. Built the set for it. Fun times. What's next?
So a couple people asked this, but Fortuity was first. Are we going to see a new bench build this year? Still waiting about the slab top.
No. I don't plan on building a bench. I had thought about making another a taller version of Sarah's bench, but I don't think so. Because if I travel, I'll just take Sarah's bench.
But what about the big slab of wood you got?
Oh, well, that will be coming eventually, but it's got another 3-4 years to dry.
Okay, that's what they want to know.
Yeah, I know. That slab is it's sitting outside the house under cover, but it's 6 inches thick. And that's going to take a long time to air dry. Long time to air dry. Especially up here, it might be a little bit faster than an inch per year. I might get it in 4 years, but it's been out there for 8 months so far? So it's got a ways to go. And I probably won't build that until after the day I build a shop to hold it, because that bench, there's no way I'd be able to get that thing down the stairs. I'll build the shop around that slab. Quite literally, I will build the shop around that slab. That's the way it will go. Yeah, so that's going to be a while.
Margaret Altvater wants to know, what is the absolute minimum thickness you would make the top of a joinery bench top? Would you go as thin as 2 inches? I was given 4 to 5 bundles of 2.5 inch wide red oak flooring. Too thin?
2-inch red oak. As long as it's braced well, that should work fine. It will be far more bouncy than most. In other words, if you're chiseling on it in the middle of the bench, you're going to notice that other things around the bench are suddenly vibrating around on it. But if you just understand that you have strong points where the legs are at, you can put that into it. The other thing to look at is you could, with that 2-inch thick oak, make an English style or a what's that in Nicholson. There we are, Nicholson style bench with a curtain, with a skirt. having name problems tonight. This thing. Yeah, that way you get a little bit more strength through a thinner top. But just understand when you're actually doing your chiseling and pounding, do it over the leg, and you'll have far less vibration on the table. But yeah, it'll work. Yeah, make sure your hold fasts, you may want to put a backing board on it so that it's a little bit thicker. But 2-inch oak, you can still get by with a hold fast. What's next?
They're saying apron.
Apron, yes, there's the word.
I wasn't really paying attention, so I couldn't help you.
This thing.
Ken Carlisle, is it worth holding out or shelling out for a number 81 wood sole over a number 80 cabinet scraper?
No. If you're the type of person that you like working with transitional tools, or you like using wooden hand planes, then yes, it might be worth it, because there is an aesthetic to it and a pleasing feel to it. It does burnish the wood a little bit better, but for most instances, it's not going to make any physical difference. So in my book, no. Unless you are in it for that feel and that desire, that glide, that's the big difference, is the personal feel of it.
You sounded like an infomercial for a second at the beginning of that answer. Let's see, Alex. Are scraper planes with totes made by Veritas, Lee Nielsen, or vintage ones any good?
Yeah. In my book, they are more expensive. Well, they are more expensive than a simple Stanley 80. You can get one of these things for $30-40. You can get the Kuntz version of it, I think is, what, $50? So they're relatively affordable. And this will do everything a scraping plane will do. It's just a scraping plane is a different form factor. This, you hold it this way. A scraping plane, you hold it this way. So that's the big thing. So if you want that, then great. If you don't want it, then great. Personal preference. But in my book, it's not worth the money to get that. It's not going to give you anything better to have it as a plain format as opposed to having it as a scraper. So, what's next? We have 12 minutes left. Think we'll get through them?
I think we'll get through most of them.
Cool.
Pit Snipe. I have a number 5 Winchester with a corrugated sole. Know anything about Winchester planes? It belonged to my wife's grandfather.
Yeah, Winchester was a very good brand. They were on the downswing after World War II, but right in line with the Stanleys of the time. They make great users. They're not terribly collectible, so don't worry about that. But they will work very well for you and treat you well. I have a couple Winchesters that I like. It's a very, very good brand. Nothing special, but very trustworthy. What's next?
Dennis Meko, have you flattened a plain bottom with a carbide scraper or any type of metal scraping?
No, I have not. And I don't think I'd want to. Flattening soles is one of those weird things because some people will take days to do it. And they talk about this project taking hours and hours to do. And I have not found a sole that is savable that has taken me more than 30-40 minutes to do. And so I don't see a need to find anything faster and more efficient. It just comes down to what you start with. And I usually start with like 36 or 50 grit sandpaper. Then I'll go to the store and get a belt sander, one of the big belt sander belts, and cut it. And so I've got this long strip. Lay it out on the bench. 36 grit, you can grind through a lot of steel really quickly and flatten out most any sole in a matter of minutes. So yeah, I've seen a few people trying to do that with carbide scrapers, and I'm a little leery of that. So personal preference though. What's next?
Lucas, Fine Art and Woodworking. Hey guys, I was just watching a period furniture build and they used hide glue. How strong is hide compared to PVA, or what are your thoughts on the use of traditional glue?
It's great stuff. Absolutely great. It has some huge benefits. It is far easier to reverse it than it is to reverse PVA. Contrary to popular belief, PVA is technically reversible, though usually it's really, really difficult to do and usually ends up in the destruction of the piece. Whereas with hide glue is reversible, though it takes a lot to do. If you've ever tried to actually reverse a joint, it is not easy. And if you're not careful, you will destroy the joint. It is also far better at being finish transparent. In other words, if you accidentally get glue smeared into the wood, you can still get a finish that will go on there rather than having a blotch of something else. Whereas with PVA, you'll get that blotch sticking out. Hide glue, you can change its open time. If you add urea or you heat it differently, you add more water. You can change the consistency to whatever you want. You can make it really watery, you can make it really thick, and you have a lot more variability with it. I don't use hide glue that much because it is really a lot to do. They're keeping the pot going and working with it, and it's just, I don't enjoy the process, and therefore I don't use it much. A lot of people really do enjoy the process though, and so if you're one of those people, awesome. If I use hide glue, I'm usually going to be using Titebond hide glue, because in all the tests I've done, it's the exact same stuff. Works the exact same, reversibility, transparency, but in a liquid bottle so you can squeeze it out like PVA. If I want it to be a little bit thinner, I just heat it up a little bit in a pot of water, and it runs out a little bit better. It has a really good open time. So usually if I want to go the hide glue route, that's where I'm going to go rather than messing with the pot. But to each their own. I use epoxy, I use different PVAs, I use hide glues, I use super glue. I have a whole collection of different glues, and I use them all different times for different instances and different uses. So, yeah. What's next?
Warren Munn wants to know, will you try to do the USBs I sent?
Yes, actually I was working on those today. Sarah, can you hold up? There's a wooden USB, no, in front of you. Other side of the keyboard, by the gold coin, there's a wooden USB.
Oh, the baby one.
Yes. I actually made one today. Yes. And that video will be coming out soon. So I actually showed yours in that video. When I say soon, 4 or 5 weeks. But I think I'm going to be sending that one to you, Warren, because I loaded onto it today all of the plans. All of my plans. So I'll send that across the other pond. The big pond. Yeah, so thank you. It was a fun idea. But yeah, what's next?
Let's see. 66. That's their name. What is the best Stanley number 4 type?
Someone wants to start an argument.
The one you can afford and use?
Yeah, honestly, I used to say type 12. I really like that. It's kind of a good traditional, historical, nice. It doesn't have all the newfangled, funky things on it. But the more I get into it, the more I really like fangled, funky things, such as the Veritas Custom. And so then I start going up to the numbers, maybe up to like a 19, 21, somewhere in that range. But yeah, anything after, what, 1950, things start to go downhill after that. So yeah, I'm not terribly part and parcel to any particular type. When I first got into it, I was really type sensitive, but now I'm not.
Does it because they fit your hands better? Or?
No, it's just throughout the years, as Stanley changed things and upgraded and added features and removed features and changed logos. And
so it's like models.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Well, the weird thing about it is we think of a Stanley type as a hard and fast from this date to this date, and everything in that is this type. Well, they kind of slowly faded from one to the other. So you'll find a lot of times a plane that has type 12 items and type 11 items, and someone thinks, oh, someone must have hodgepodged this together. It's like, no, it just happened through the transition. They used up all their parts until they ran out of them, and then they started putting in the new parts. And so we make things very simple and easy to understand by dating them with a type. What's next?
Alex Adams wants to know, what kind of a plane adjusting hammer does James prefer?
You know, I've got a few of them that I use. And this is this is the first one I had. And I love this one. I made this handle, 6 years or so ago. I love this. This thing is fun. I really like that. This one is actually a chasing hammer, but I use it from time to time. This one is from, oh, come on, what's his name? Eric? No, it's an E. But this is his first run. He got into it and he made this one and like 6 others, and I got one of them. And he's now one of my favorites. And then I want to actually I made a whole set of the Reed plane hammers, which I have a whole video on that. And I want to buy one of the heads for myself and make one of those. I just haven't had the chance to do it yet. So if I had it, would be the small London pattern hammerhead. I really, really like that one. And so one of these days I'm going to buy one and do that myself. So, yeah. Is that a super chat?
Yes. Gary Leonard says, too many questions. Here's money for a coffee.
Thank you, Gary. Do you have a mom joke ready?
Yes. So this is going to be from your point of view, me asking.
Okay.
Hang on. I'm trying to think. It's the way it's written. I'm trying to reverse it. And
you want to ask a question when you think about it?
no.
Okay, ready? I'm ready for it. Throw it at me.
What? Okay. I figured out a way to reword it. What's a woman's least favorite flower for Valentine's Day?
What?
Gold medal unbleached.
Yeah, I like that one. What's next?
We're not going to get through all these questions.
Cool.
Rusty Shackelford.
If you want us to hit your question, throw a super chat and we'll do it.
I don't think Gary had a question. Otherwise, I would have asked it. Found a number 7 Bailey at a flea market recently. Frog screws are a little rusty, and the handle and lever cap are both cracked. $30 though. Good deal?
Handle and lever cap. Could be. I mean, the handle for me is that's not a problem. You can make a new tote for it without any issue. The lever cap though, yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find one of those, but you're probably gonna be looking at like an extra $15. So $45 total plus a couple hours making a tote, but you have a nice tote for it. Yeah, that's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. And prices on those have gone up recently, so that's not bad. What's next? And a caveat though, it depends on where you're at. If that is in California, buy it now, buy it instantly, and turn around and sell it for twice. If that's the price here in the Midwest, that's a pretty decent deal. If that's down south, that's a really good deal. If that's in Louisiana, buy it now.
You heard it here, folks. Let's see. Ken Carlisle, what is the point to infill planes versus your usual metal planes other than they're really pretty?
A good argument. The big argument for them is that they have a really, really good feel. And they do. They feel really, really good. There's something about them with that slightly heavier weight and the shape of them. there's a good resonance to them. Because of the wood and the metal, they have a very different resonant frequency, so they don't vibrate. You can still get chatter in the iron because that's the iron wobbling, but most of the time you're going to have a thicker iron that is a little less of an issue. But it really comes down to how they feel and how they make you feel. And they are fun, but they are expensive. They're very expensive. So if you like the feel and it's worth it to you, great. What's next?
2 questions left pulled out. You want to go through those real fast?
Sure, let's hit them.
Okay, Ben Molina asked, number 68 Stanley Rebate plane. I haven't, rebate, whatever. I haven't seen anyone show a use for it or demo the use. What do you know about this plane?
It makes rabbets. A rabbet, well, this is a dadoed rabbet, but it is a open groove, so it's a 2-step channel in a board. And this will make them quickly and easily. I've used them a few times, but I don't do a lot of rabbets. I do a lot more grooves, and so I tend to use the 45 and 55. But it's a rabbet plane for making rabbets. You can use it as a shoulder plane. It's not quite as good for that, but it works. It's not a tool that I use all that often, but when I do, it's the tool I want to use. What's next? Or last?
Neil Kirkbride. I have a 5.5 Stanley Bailey hand plane. How do I tell how old it is?
The best way to do it is to go to Hyperkitten. Yes, Hyperkitten, all one word, hyperkitten.com. And on there he has a Stanley flowchart. And it will ask you how many patent dates are on the frog, behind the frog. And you go through all of these things, you answer the questions, and it comes out. You have a type 11. And that usually gets you pretty good. Sometimes it will give you one of those vague numbers in between, but it will give you the best information. The only thing about that is a type rating for the number 4, but all of those changes carry pretty much through all of the planes. So if you have a number 4, it'll show up for the 5.5 as well. Is that one last super chat?
It is. And Gamet didn't catch us last week, so he wants to hear another joke.
Tell another joke. You ready for it? Or should I talk about something for a moment?
Go ahead and talk about something for a second.
I wanted to show this off today because this is really cool. So I'm making a pentagonal bowl, and it's not just a pentagonal bowl, it is a dovetailed pentagonal bowl. And this was absolutely crazy for me to wrap my brain around. Let me pull this apart, because these dovetails look absolutely crazy. So I mean, it's just weird because it's a compound dovetail. So yeah, I was having fun with this today, and I've got to do 4 more joints with it. So this will be a video coming out in probably a month or so. But this particular project I started 6 years ago, and I have attempted it twice, and both times ended in disaster on the first dovetail set. And I threw it in the box and haven't come back to it. And so now this time we're going to do it, a pentagonal dovetail bowl. What we got?
Okay.
I'm ready.
I don't know that one's going to be very good. Okay.
I can smell the smoke. Can you folks?
Doesn't make sense. Hang on. I wasn't ready for another joke. I was going to go to bed.
Well, here, let me
I'm
point
not
you.
ready. Your turn.
All right.
Your turn
This,
tonight.
I was showing this earlier. This is a Godshot block. And I've
what?
made a couple of them over the years. And so it's basically just a practice block. So I've got a video come out of this, but this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do for the first live class. And so for those of you who don't know, soon here I'm going to be announcing I'm going to attempt to do a live class. I'm going to have 2 or 3 people here in the shop, and I will be doing a class with them, but I'm going to set it up in a way that I'll have 4 or 5 cameras capturing it, and you in your shop will be able to change which camera you want to look at, so you can focus in on things and change around, and then actually talk with me. So it'll be a Zoom, so you can chat and communicate, and so it can be a full-blown class. And so the first one I'm going to do is probably on making a simple got shot block, and make a couple of them and show a couple different methods. So stay tuned for that. The first 1 or 2 I'm going to have completely free because I'm working out the kinks and trying to get the live class system set up. So stay tuned. I'm hoping to have some fun. What we got?
Okay, this is what he gets for this time of night. What do you call fake potatoes?
Fake potatoes?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Imitators.
I like it. I like it. So on that note, thank you all for joining us.
I had one joke ready.
Yes. Next week,
we might have to do a longer live because they're saying it's too short when we only do that. We're due for a day one sometime coming up.
Sometime we'll be doing another day. But yeah, I don't remember what I have next week. We'll probably be doing the joinery window again in a month or so, because I try and do one of those every 2 years or so. So stay tuned.
Boo.
I think that'll do it for now.
Dead Gamet.
So until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.